Welcome everyone to another Dolphin Communication Project webinar. Today we will be discussing socializing killer whales, how and with whom they share info. We are joined by our core killer whale team within DCP, Dr. Kathleen, Dr. Heather, and Manon. And I will be here, I'm Kel. I will be here to monitor the chat for those of you who are listening live. And if you are listening to the recording, feel free to email us or reach out on social media if you have questions. And with that, I will pass it over to our.
Oh, hold on, let me share the right thing. This one, please. Okay. Hold on, okay, it's not quitting. We're good.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. And you will actually be hearing from me, Manon, and Heather throughout this presentation. And we are taking you on a deep dive into killer whale social behavior. We're looking at inter-individual exchanges and how they share information and with whom they share information within their social groups. Next slide, please.
Oh God, yes, it's working.
So, as a little bit of background for those of you who might not have seen our first webinar or might not have joined either of the podcasts that we have recently on our killer whale research, we have been studying small dolphins, bottlenose and spotted dolphins, for the better part of 30 plus years. And in 2022, we were invited by SeaWorld to study the SeaWorld San Diego or SeaWorld California killer whales, to observe them from video, both above the water and below. And this past January 2025, we added Loro Parque killer whales to our roster of killer whale data. And then this spring, we started getting data from three populations in the wild: the Gibraltar killer whales, those off Norway, and those north of Hokkaido in Shirotoko in Japan. And we thank our collaborators, which are Loro Parque Foundation, Loro Parque, SeaWorld, Circe, Wild Encounters, and Japan Underwater Films, for sharing all of the data with us. Our first webinar you can find on the DCP website or our YouTube channel. And also, you can have the open access QR code for the first paper that came out in January looking at activity budgets, which was exciting information, but a very thick paper with lots of details. And our other papers are currently in review, in revision, and hopefully will be out by the end of the year or early in 2026. So this deep dive is going to look at specifically the social interactions between the killer whales at both Loro Parque and SeaWorld, and look at who's doing what with whom, and do some of the individual killer whales have preferences. We will touch on later in this presentation a little bit of the detail that we're pulling together. It's preliminary right now, looking at animals in the wild versus managed care, looking at some of the challenges we encounter in getting data from one or the other setting, and then also what we're learning about these animals and how they share interactions.
So to start, just a small reminder of how and what we're getting from Loro Parque and SeaWorld. At both facility, we have numerous cameras over each pool that covers the whole area from above and below water, so we can observe the animal all the time. We export 3-day video every 3 months at Loro Park, and every 2 to 3 months for SeaWorld. So we don't observe them all the time. We just get small bits here and there throughout the year. And
So it's a lot of data.
Yeah, it's a lot of data. To start with the how, oh, and there is something wrong here, but that's all right. Let's see. To start with the how, the how is how they exchange the information. So they use various type of behaviors, like the pair swim, duo swim, and group swim that you see here. So you have a nice group swim with Adan, Tekoa, and Morgan here at Loro Parque. And here at SeaWorld, you have a pretty big group swim with an infant position here between 2 female and then 2 male in the background. So it's one of the example of the type of interaction we are interested in. at both locations to look at who is doing what with who. Then we are also, apparently it's going to do this on every single slide. Great. We are also looking at body-to-body contact and pictorial fin contact. So I'm just going to pause the two others. That way we can focus on one video at a time. Here is SeaWorld. It's a nice group swim, but you can see some contact here. I don't know if you see my cursor, but the fluke here on the belly. So while they're swimming all together, they usually exchange a lot of contact. And here's a small example with Adam and Morgan below screen. He's rubbing her on the belly and the gular region, and also pack-to-pack rubbing. And this one is a bit more funny. He's rubbing her fluke all over. And he's been doing that for a bit on that video. So that's the thing we are trying to record to see who is interacting with who. But we are also looking at other type of interaction, interaction in a large sense. So here is example of the same type of behavior at SeaWorld on the right and Lower Parquet on the left. We call it cross swim behavior. We think it's play because we see it in playful situation and in between affiliative interaction between individuals. So here it's Corky and Eka Eka. They've been on that small bat of video was cut out of a longer portion, whereas they've been interacting together for a while. They've been doing this cross swimming and then go pair swimming together along the pool, making contact with the pectoral and then doing it again. And here it's the same behavior between the two males at Lower Parquet with some open jaws. And then they went to the other pool to do the same thing. Among the other type of interaction we are looking at is the social sexual interactions. So here it's pectoral fin rubbing on the genital area, both at SeaWorld and Lower Parquet. So here at SeaWorld, it was between siblings, Makani and Kalia, and here it was between Adam and Morgan when she was still pregnant. But we have also other type of social sexual behavior, like here between the two males at Lower Parquet. And if you were with us during our last podcast, we mentioned an interesting behavior we observed at the end of the podcast. So this is it. Adam is not really mounting Tekoa, but just putting his penis in the median notch of Tekoa right there.
And what's interesting is we've seen this in the footage from the wild animals, where you have younger males coming up to the older males and doing the same exact behavior.
With usually the older male just staying quite inactive at the surface and just letting the younger male do exactly what we are seeing with the small dolphin utterance. So it's really interesting.
I was going to say it's also seen with the smaller dolphinids as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So with all those behaviors, with SeaWorld, oh God, okay. It was working perfectly fine when we tried it an hour ago and I didn't change it. Anyway, so all those behavior we used at SeaWorld on the paper that is under review to build an interaction network. So this is it. You have each individual in those weird square. Green are the males, orange are the females. And you can see that everybody is well connected to everybody. But then you see that the lines are not as, don't have the same thickness for everybody. Thicker lines mean that these two individuals are interacting a lot. Very thin lines is that they're interacting, but not as much. So here, if I take Keith as an example, on the left is just the pink is Keith socializing with Corky here, Ika here, and then the blue is when he's interacting with someone else than those on the x-axis here. So he's interacting with everybody. But then if we look at the right graphic here, the dark green is he's interacting with only the individual on the y-axis. And the light green is he's interacting with that individual, but only if other individuals are in the interaction. So it's like sometimes to interact with some individuals, they need someone else in there. So Keith is doing a lot of one-on-one interaction with Makani, but for example, with Ika and Kalia, he's interacting with them usually only if someone else is with them. So it's interesting to see those small differences. And here it's just a small comparison with Orchid. She's also social. She's not interacting with Ikaika, but she's interacting with everybody else. And as you can see, she's interacting with the others mostly when she's in a group with the others, not as much as one-on-one. So everybody is different within a group. And then here, Maikani is in a big circle because he was our most central individual. So what is centrality? We say that an individual is central when he's connected to the most individual in a group, but also when that individual connects more individual to each other. So here is an example, Corky to Kalia, and then here Corky to Orchid. So he's also connecting others. And that's visible when you look at his graphs here. You can see that he's really interacting with everybody one-on-one, but also everybody within groups. So that's how you can see that he's really connecting everybody. And then still talking about centrality, the right circle here are the individuals that showed a high level of centrality, and the blue ones are the ones that showed the lowest level of centrality. Even though everybody is connected, they're not always connected in the same way. And the interesting thing here is the female in blue were less central than the males in our group, which is complete opposite to one study from Weiss et al. In 2021 on the southern resident killer whale population that showed the females over there were more central than the male. And the major difference that we have in our group compared to the southern resident killer whale is southern resident have mother and calf, and mother and calf is the strongest bond of all among groups. So, and particularly in killer whale, well, the calf stay with mom, so they have time to build that relationship stronger over time. And we don't have any mom and calf in our group at SeaWorld. So maybe if we had some, we would see something a bit different. But since they're not here, we think that's one of the possible explanation of that difference here. And then at Lower Parque, we have a smaller group, so a smaller network, but everybody is connected to everybody. This was based from February and March data when Tino wasn't born yet. So you can see that Tico and Morgan had a pretty strong relationship, interacting more than with Adan. But Adan is also interacting with everybody. And so at that time, Morgan was the more central individual based on the number of interactions she has with both Tico and Adan. But now things have changed. Tino is here. So this is more how it looks like right now. There is no real relationship between Adan and Morgan and Tico, although they can interact through the gates. They're not together in the pool, so they can't really play together, rub each other, or anything like this. And Morgan is spending all of her time with Tino, so most of her interactions are toward her calf. She's very focused on her calf, so right now it's really the strongest relationship in the group, and Adan and Tico are just interacting as always, so it's not particularly evolving right now. But if you've seen the social media from Laura Parque, you've seen that Tino has been introduced to Adan last week. So now that this is going to happen more often, Adan and Tino are going to be able to build their relationship, so interact more and more. And so it's going to be interesting to see how much they're going to interact. Probably not a lot at the beginning and more after. Awesome. My computer is happy. So Adan and Morgan will be also able to interact again now that they are going to be put back together more often. And so they will be able to restore or just start again their relationship. And the next step will be the same for Tekoa when he will be introduced to Morgan and Tino. So right now, here, the top three dyad, so Adan Tekoa, Adan Morgan, Morgan Tekoa, this was all before Tino's birth. Adan and Tekoa were interacting a lot. We didn't see a lot of swims in between those two, but we saw, and we are still seeing, because these two are still together, a lot of social, sexual interaction, a lot of play session, like the cross swim you saw earlier. Between Morgan and Adan, it was more swim, just pair swim, duo swims, and then Morgan and Tekoa, some swims, and then some interaction, various type of interaction, some rubbing, some play. So you can see that it's very different depending on who is interacting with who. And now, of course, this is why it's pink. Now Morgan is all the time with Tino, and she's doing all that she's supposed to do with her calf. There is a lot of contact between them, a lot of play. We'll have some small video a bit later to show you. So basically, they're doing a lot with each other. With the lower Barkey killer whale, we are just at the beginning of the study because we received the data earlier this year. So we are going to learn more about that group as we are going through the videos. So this is our status. SeaWorld San Diego, we have all those videos. January 2025 is gray here because we had surface, not underwater, or underwater, not surface. So we'll see. We're going to focus on sessions for which we have both at the same time before during January. But it's a long process. At SeaWorld, we have 10 camera angle. So it's taking a lot of time. And at Lower Park, although we have less camera angle, we still have 4 individual with a mom and calf that are doing a lot of things together. So it is also taking a lot of time to go through those. And now, what about the wild? We've added different populations to our data set. We've added the Norwegian killer whale. We are collaborating with Wild Encounters. So you have Tromsø here. It's far north above the Arctic Circle. Tromsø is here, and usually the area where we see the killer whale is more around here. We're also collaborating with Circe in South Spain. They are studying the killer whale of Gibraltar here. So we just received the videos from them, and we're also collaborating with folks in Japan with the population of killer whales they're seeing around here north of Hokkaido. So this is North Japan. For these 3 populations, we receive different type of data. We have drone, we have surface video from the boat, and we have underwater. So it's 3 different perspectives. For Japan, we have the 3 at the same time. For the other location, it's usually one or the other. So the only thing that we have for each population that is fixed and doesn't change is we have the date, the video were taken in approximate time, sometimes approximate location where they saw the animal when possible, but then everything is different from each location. Because it is a challenge to study animals like killer whales in the wild. First, you need to go out and find them. So this is just a short example of how it can be when you're on the Zodiac with trying to find those animals or trying to get in the water to get footage of those animals. You can have rough seas and wind, so you need also good weather, especially in Japan, to fly the drone. And then you need good visibility. And so this is an example of very dark, low light environment. These animals were just within 5 meters of us, but still you can barely see them on the camera because the cameras don't like when it's low light. So once you've dealt with technology, you still need to deal with the animals. We don't particularly know the sex of the animal, and sometimes it's hard to identify them on the videos. And then if you have a mom and calf, like here, you need to see the adult female with that same calf several times to confirm it is mom and calf, because you have alloparenting in killer whales too. So other female can take care of baby while mom is doing something else. So it can be very a challenge. And the challenge we don't have with the managed care killer whale. So we are very happy to have the managed care population. That way we can work on things we cannot work on in the wild, because sometimes you really need to identify and have the sex of the individuals. So here are a few examples of the challenges we are meeting for Norwegian, Japan, and Gibraltar killer whales. First, we have a lot of videos. For Norway, we're receiving guest videos, so it's people paying to have a trip in Norway and swim with killer whales. So we're getting all the footage. So we have a humpback whale, fin whale, sperm whale, which is awesome to watch, but it's not what we're interested in. And sometimes you have very nice sunset with humpback, but still, it's not helpful for research. So we have to go through all those videos to find killer whales. And then once we have the killer whales, like here, these three screenshot, orange, red, and yellow, it's 3 camera angle of the same moment. So sometimes you have 3 times the same thing. And you need to make sure to identify those, because you don't want to count the behavior twice, because that wouldn't be good for research. You need to have those individuals recorded only once. So it's taking a lot of time to go through all those videos to make sure we know what's there, but also to make sure we have something to record. Because you've seen, we're looking at pair swim, group swim, and contact. So here might be a group swim or a pair swim somewhere. But sometimes on the video, you just see them swim through, and there is not much to record. So you really need to find the bits that are going to be helpful. And then the next challenge is to identify the individuals. Most Gibraltar has, it's a non-population. We know all the individuals. We have a pretty good catalog, so eye patch included, because from underwater we are using more of those white bits to identify the individuals, because here it's the same animal in blue. It's a big male here. It's the same one here. It has a notch in the dorsal fin, and you cannot see it from underwater. So, except when you have the right angle on the left, sometimes you cannot ID the individuals from underwater using the dorsal fin. So that's why it's pretty good to have the eye patch from the Gibraltar killer whale. And then the Norwegian population, we do have a catalog, but it's a traditional catalog with just dorsal fin and saddle patch. So it's very hard from underwater to match individuals. So we're going to have to create our own catalog, our own underwater catalog with the eye patch and the rest of the white bits, so we can actually ID the individual and make sure and know actually who is doing what with who. Because if you don't know the who, it's hard to do inter-individual interaction research. And in Japan, the research effort is just at the beginning. So we do have ID pictures, but we're basically building the catalog as we go. So it's a much longer process. You need to sort out all the video, review all footage, identify killer whale, log the killer whale to know when you have killer whale in view before doing anything in Boris to code the behavior we've showed you with the lower parquet and SeaWorld killer whale. So it's a lot of data, 3 populations. Just for the wild encounters only, it's more than 300 files right now. Japan, it's even more. And CRC, we just received the footage, so we don't know exactly what we have, but we know we have some pretty good drone footage also. So we have a lot to keep ourselves busy, at least for this coming year, to study the wild killer whales. But just to show you a bit of the behaviors we see for each population, this is an example of the Gibraltar killer whale. It's a clip from Circe, drone view, and you can see some pair swim and mom and calf interaction. Hopefully it's a mom, we don't know, we'll have to double check. But you can see young calf here with what seems to be adult female. You have a nice infant position here. You see a lot of contact also in this video, so that's exactly what we're looking for. So we're looking forward to see the other footage that we just received from them. And then in Japan, here, is an example of a pectoral fin contact between what seems to be two adult individuals, rubbing here the head and then maybe the belly of the other one. And you have a calf behind here. So maybe on the other clips, we'll have also some mom-calf interaction to see. And here, example from Norway of what seems to be social sexual behavior between two females, one swimming ventral side up and rubbing herself against the other female and keeping going like this. People are excited when they swim with killer whale in Norway, so you don't have always animals in view, in focus all the time. So it's hard to see start and end of the interaction, but you still see some pretty interesting behaviors. So that's what we are looking at for the wild killer whale. We are really getting started, so stay tuned for more information in the next month.
We're further ahead on what we've been studying for the animals in managed care, both at Loro Parque and SeaWorld, which is exciting.
And then one last thing that wasn't in the description of that deep dive is we are actually looking at maternal care and calf development thanks to Morgan and Tino, and hopefully some of the wild killer whale. We'll see if you can see a calf on some of those videos. But I wanted to show you some of the behavior we see with Morgan and Tino. And here is one that we actually don't see very often on TV or anywhere else. So I'm just going to play it another time. It's Tino nursing. And if you pay close attention, you can see his tongue at the end. So it's pretty cool. He just stick it in there, nurse, and they both keep swimming like this.
They create a little kind of a straw with the tongue, and then they go in very efficiently, suck in and pull out the milk very quickly. And they figure that out within the first couple of months. Initially, when they first start nursing, you'll see some bursts of milk come out because they're kind of sloppy, trying to figure out how it all works. But once they become very efficient at it, they can pretty much wipe out her supply within a few seconds. So they're very good at nursing, and these are incredible shots that we get. You may have also noticed that the coloration of Tino in this video was he's bigger, but a little bit different from Morgan's coloration. Again, that lighter color on him is very typical of newborns and very young killer whale calves, and we've seen it with the wild animals as well. What else do we have, Manon?
Yeah, then hitching a ride, different version. So as the calf grows up, you are starting to see some also social sexual interaction with mom. So that was one example of it.
What's
So
really
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say what's really interesting to me about all this is what we're seeing between Morgan and Tino is very similar to what we've documented for bottlenose and spotted dolphin mom calf pairs and the interactions and the behaviors we've seen there. And I would imagine, Heather, you've seen that in belugas as well.
Belugas and killer whale calves. So we've had opportunities multiple times to watch killer whale calves in Texas and among other places. And the development that we're seeing is certainly across big dolphins, little dolphins, and whales like belugas. These are all very typical behaviors that we would expect to see of calves born to a cetacean or a dolphin or a whale. So this is really fun to see how consistent and universal and conserved it is across species as well as across settings. So these are all behaviors that we've seen both in wild populations and managed care populations. Yeah, this fun ventral position that you see Morgan there on the bottom with Tano hanging out right over her genitalia is a very relaxed position and shows you a variation of what we consider sometimes as infant position.
Yeah. And then probably the cutest videos of this presentation is some playtime with mom and baby. And he's also playing with his tongue near the end. he's having a lot of fun with his tongue. So you have also some very cute and interesting interaction between mom and baby because she's been very gentle with him, pushing him gently, showing the teeth, but not as much. And speaking of teeth, you can see his baby teeth here. Well, not baby teeth, but
Tiny
small teeth.
Little tiny teeth coming in. And again, this is a really typical behavior of mothers and calves of any species,
Mhm.
that head-to-head nuzzling interaction that you see, the little nibbling of tongues. Minot shared with us earlier this morning some very cool tongue nibbling behavior, which is a behavior that we've seen in killer whales. It's been captured across multiple settings between different aged animals, but certainly this calf and mom is pretty typical. And then we've also seen very similar behaviors in bottlenose dolphins and in belugas as well. So belugas gets to be a little bit more active in certain ways. We've had a couple of fun papers on it, and it's an important developmental milestone for belugas. And I suspect we're going to start seeing the same thing with the small dolphins as well, and clearly with killer whales.
Yeah. So looking at all those videos from Morgan and Tino, we are receiving, since he was born, we are receiving footage every week. So we can actually record the development of Tino and see the steps. So Heather was mentioning the coloration. You can see it much better here. He was a very small baby here. It was those videos are from March and April for most of them, so he's very small in those. And you can see he was already playing with his tongue here. So we are looking at all different kind of things between these two. We are looking at mom and calf interaction, but we are also going to look at nursing and respiration from Tino and Morgan for the respiration for the first hour of life, but then also for later on.
And I think just to add real quick, Minot suggested a small baby. He's a big baby, and he was perfectly sized for a neonate for a killer whale. So when we think about these animals, they're quite
Large.
large when they're
You're
born.
big babies.
Yeah. But he
But
looks tiny
compared to
compared to his mom.
Hmm.
compared to
Yeah.
mom and her her gestational state of post pregnancy, and having had him. So it's definitely been a pleasure to watch the calves and Tano in particular. And as we know from not only a new paper that's just been published by the DCP group, that calves contribute to diversifying behavior in a group, to creating larger groups, to more social behaviors. That's consistent of small dolphins, and will be consistent, and is as well consistent of the larger dolphins like the killer whale and belugas. So we know that calves are really, really important to the social structure and the social interactions that they bring to the larger population.
And we're looking forward to see Tino interact with Adam and Tegoa
Yes.
once they get acquainted to each other. And once
Hmm.
mom decide Tino can actually go play with the big boys because
Yeah, actually, if I can
Manitzas let her
interject
explore.
a little bit more with that, it takes a few months for calves to become aware of their environment, and between 6 and 8 months with the killer whales and small dolphins and belugas, they become much more aware of their environment and are now observant of the things that are happening around them. But dolphins in particular are extremely protective of their calves and don't often give them that opportunity to go explore and do all the things, which is a little different from what belugas do. But I think one of the things that's been really great watching Tano grow up in this particular setting so far is he's very aware of where the other killer whales are, and often goes and checks out those gates where the other
Big
males may
interest in them.
be
Yes.
Mhm.
found. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
And both
we're
Tegoa and
seeing
Adam showed interest also in him too. So
Yeah.
right. So it's really great. We're seeing really typical development on the part of Tano, and it is consistent no matter whether we're looking at a killer whale at Lodo Park, or a killer whale in San Diego or in Texas, or a dolphin in Roatan, or a dolphin down in the Bahamas. It's all very similar.
So for all the calf data, we have a lot of papers archive from SeaWorld. So now we are having to enter all those paper information into Excel sheets so we can actually run stats on it. Uh, sorry. And we are also have one killer whale from Marinon and obviously Tino at Lower Parque. So we are working on getting those data into the computer so we can regroup and run stat on them. But we have them. It's just a matter of going through everything and then see the different pattern we have for each of those calves.
And the interesting thing we hope is that looking at this historical information will shed light on nursing patterns, respiration patterns for calves in that first 24 to 48 to 72 hours of life. And that information might be able to inform our observations of critically endangered populations like the southern resident killer whales. And when they have calves, this information might inform what to look for those developmental milestones in those first few hours of life.
Yeah, and in most of those data that we have in those paper, you can see the right column here. It's usually just behavioral information. So we don't just get the nursing and the respiration. We also have here and there some information about the calf interaction with mom, mom with the calf, and then also with other individual in the group when that is available. So we'll be able to also probably use that to see how a calf integrate to a social group.
And we do know from bottlenose dolphin research that's looked at the same kind of questions and beluga research that's looked at the same kind of questions by different research groups, that this is a particularly helpful piece of information or set of information to recognize the health of an animal, both the calf and the mother in many cases, and is usually a pretty good predictor for future survival. So having this information, documenting it for the killer whales will, I think, be extremely helpful for being able to assist those animals, those populations in the wild that are definitely at the endangered status and just in general.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So this is pretty much where we are with our killer whale research. And this is just to remind a bit of our main goal with those data. So we are first, we are in 1 and 2 here. We're not yet in the third part here. We are still working on the lower Parky and SeaWorld data, as you saw, but we are also really starting to get into the in situ, ex situ comparison with the arrival of the 3 new population that we can now look at. So that will help us just to better understand killer whale in general. And then, as you heard a lot during this chat, it will also help understand the differences or the similarities of killer whales and other dolphin species. And so far, we see a lot of similarities. So it's going to be really interesting to get to the through those data.
And our focus, just as a quick reminder, is looking at the inter-individual. So how 2 individuals or small groups of individuals share behaviors and interact with one another. And when you look at that level, which is very focused in, that's where we're seeing more similarity than difference.
Yeah, and just a small reminder, talking about that is usually most of the research done in the wild are focusing on the group. That's why what we are doing is sort of new, and also we are seeing some things that some people already know or are already used to see, but it's not really into the published scientific literature right now, and you also don't hear about it in any kind of media. So we think it's really important to get this information out, because really looking at the individual level will help us see more and understand much better these individuals and what they are actually doing when they're all together. When you go out to Norway or Vancouver to see them out there, you can know better these animals. And if you know them better, you can better protect them. So
Yes.
yes, there it is. That is the end of it. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, please ask.
Oh, and I'm going to steal
Yes.
the screen for a moment and remind everyone that first off, thank you to everyone who's listening live. And if you found this recording and you're wondering where more are, you can go to our YouTube channel or our Vimeo page. You can also watch all of our past webinar recordings on our website, dolphincommunicationproject.org. Just look under the Knowledge Hub. You'll find the webinars there. We also usually have a post that lets folks know about upcoming live programs. This was a deep dive. I'm going to go out of order from this slide. So obviously we're not shying away from technical terms or anything like that. And then we also have dolphin lessons. They're geared towards a younger audience, but I think they work for everyone, a little shorter, a little bit more accessible. So both of those are in our archives. And then we have our podcast, the Dolphin Pod. We talked about a recent episode quite a bit in this talk, so go ahead and grab that wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you. We are a nonprofit, so I would be remiss if I didn't remind people of how they could support our work. And that includes just staying in touch, follow us on social media. This time of year, becoming a dolphin protector is a fun way to support DCP and also a cool gift. If you're listening in December 2025, we do have new killer whale protector kits because killer whales are the largest dolphin, in case you missed that part there. So you can kind of declare that you are indeed going to be a dolphin protector in your life, get a cool info sheet, photograph, certificate, a trading card. And so now you can choose from 4 species of the protector kit. And then we have now 13, I believe, trading cards that you can collect. So with that, there's our website, our email address, all the ways to stay in touch, and we will get to those long-awaited questions. So you can, yes, please submit your questions by chat. So the first question is, do we have any idea on why the females are less central in managed care than the males are? So that's kind of going back to that sociogram that you
I,
had up, Manel.
I think the to Minot can clarify, but I think the current reason we think is because there are calves in the groups for the southern resident killer whales for the observations and the data. But right now, for the data that we have and what we're looking at, we don't have calves in the San Diego population at SeaWorld.
And I would confirm that if we were to do the same task in the San Antonio population, which does have mother and calf offspring, and in the Orlando population, that you would see a different response in terms of the network, and it would be more maternally female driven in that particular way. But the San Diego population is a little bit different with its composition.
Yeah, San Diego is a very particular setting. And also it's in San Diego, the female are less central than the male. It's not the same for everywhere. The thing with the San Diego killer whale is we don't, so small reminder, not all population of killer whale have a matriarch that leads the group and decide of everything throughout the day and shares the knowledge and everything. In other population of the world, it's more toward fission, which means groups comes together or split. One individual is going to spend time with this one and with the other. So at San Diego, we are more toward the fission because we don't have that matriarchy. We don't have that very strict hierarchy that you can see in other groups of killer whale. We do have related individuals. It's just the previous matriarch. It was a matriarch. She was the boss in there. When she died, nobody really took over, and it's not necessary that somebody has to take over. And so the her offspring, Makani, Kalia, are both very dominant, but they don't run the pool like a matriarch could run the pool, like Morgan is doing at Laurel Parque, or like other female are doing in Orlando and San Antonio. So it's very different in San Diego. And it doesn't mean our female are less social. They are very social. You should see Keith and Shuka, or Shuka and Kalia. They're all very social. It's just in the network, it works a bit differently depending on who is available and what they're doing with one another. So it would be actually really interesting to see and do the same study with the San Antonio or the Orlando killer whale to see the difference.
And I'd also say, just to kind of add a little bit to that, with Makani being, I consider him the social butterfly. We consider him the social butterfly, the social glue. And again, I think that contributes to the idea that younger animals really, create more opportunities in different ways. So I think it'll be interesting to see where it lands.
Yeah.
Sticking with the sociogram for a minute, in the SeaWorld group that you showed, I think we counted 9. Do those 9 individuals have access to each other all the time? Was a question.
So we now have 8 individuals since 2022, August 2022. And all those 8 individuals interact with everybody. It's just the trainers every single day are changing social groups. So they decide to open this pool to, I don't know, Makani, Kalia, Shuka, and then another group with Keith, Ulysses, and who do I miss? I don't know, Orchid. So the trainer are going to change grouping like this throughout the day, some period more, some period less. It just depends on the animal and how they see their animal every day. If they feel that today, I don't know, Makani is not really into spending time with Corky, they're not going to put them together. If they see that Kalia really wants to be with Makani today, they're going to let Kalia and Makani be together for that day. And in the last 2 years, we are starting to see more and more big groups because they're working a lot with their animal on their sociality to make sure that everybody is fine with everybody. And so now we can have groups of 6 killer whale together for hours and hours in a day. So they have a lot of social opportunities. We don't have a single individual in pool, except for 1 hour if we need to do veterinary something with them. It's better to have the individual alone in a pool to focus on that individual. But outside of those managed moment, they're always with other individuals.
And we do, for the data that we are looking at for the videos and the days, we get the setup, the social setup that the trainers have identified for the day before, the 3 days that we get for the data. So we know availability. So we can look at availability versus interaction, which is the least intrusive way of saying we need that for statistics.
Yeah.
Make sure what we're seeing is actual, what's we're seeing.
So if you're really interested in the very deep details, wait for the paper. But basically, the association and the interaction network, where we have to calculate things. We have formulas to count who is doing what with who, but this is all based on who was available with who. We don't count interaction between Makani and Corky for the time Makani and Corky were not together. It's only if Corky was available, then how many times Makani interacted with her and vice versa. So it's really, we are taking into account the availability for these guys.
Which is something that wild population research can't.
Yeah.
And I think that that is always something that we want to remind individuals is that because we have access to know who's who, we are able to really get a true representation of what's taking place. And I think that's one of the one of the disadvantages of working with wild populations is that even when a good majority of the population, you don't have the same opportunities due to visibility and access and that sort of stuff. So that's cool.
Thank you. We have two Tano related questions, so I'll ask them together. One, it's someone's just wondering if Tano is Morgan's first calf.
No,
Nope.
he is the second one.
Second, I believe, yes.
Yep.
Not mistaken. Yeah.
Lovely.
So
So,
she had practiced before. She's good with him.
yep,
Yeah.
lovely. And the other question is, do we know what the assumed function of the sociosexual interactions between Morgan and Tano are, or
That's
a
an
mom and calf in
awesome,
general, but using them as the example?
awesome question. Kathleen, you want to jump there?
Uh, well, I don't ever assume a function. We have to look at how they're using those behaviors. And some of it is play, some of it is developmental, instructional, looking at the interactions between them, what the calf might learn to do or how to use its body. I think, Heather, you might be able to comment more. You've looked at moms and calves more than the rest of us. But I think yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely on the right track in terms of saying what it's all about. It it starts their first partner in all interactions is the mother, and they do many things, mother initiated, calf initiated, and sociosexual is just one component of that. So it is in part related to just basic development, learning how to interact, understanding, I'm assuming understanding how things work, and what it feels like. There is probably some additional information that's being pulled from the beak to genital behavior that we've seen quite a bit of in terms of identification. From what Jason Brook has shown us is that urine gives a good piece of information about ID. And so that is probably one of the ways that they began to do some of that. But it is very much a critical part of their development, and it is then expanded to include other individuals of similar age, other individuals of slightly older ages. We believe that there's quite a bit of mentoring that begins to form pretty early, but those early sociosexual interactions are really just part of our typical behavioral development of dolphins and whales. And it is very interesting to see. And animals, my idea is that animals that aren't engaging in those things early on may not develop following a typical behavioral milestone course for their development. And then that may have impacts on their future behavior in terms of their ability to do breeding and courtship in a way that is received positively and efficiently from other animals.
And that, another example of that is we see young females doing a lot of alloparenting and babysitting.
Yep.
And so that is another way for them to develop the skills they need to be a successful mom and to actually help a young calf develop and mature.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just doing a quick time check. We are approaching the hour, and as our listeners can tell, this group could probably just keep going. But I will, as moderator, force us to wrap up. So we have one kind of a smaller question, but I didn't ever think of it myself. Someone asked if the groups of killer whales that you're studying, SeaWorld, San Diego, Laurel Park 8, and then now the three wild groups, are they all relatively similar in size, physical size?
That's a pretty good
Or is
question.
there a big difference between the
Um,
locations?
San Diego, we have the biggest male, I think. San Diego, Laurel Parque. I don't know so the difference between San Diego and Laurel Parque is the male don't have the same age yet. So Tekoa is gonna grow more, and Adan is gonna is also gonna grow more. Morgan is I heard pretty small compared to the other female they had. So I would wait to see to say Norpark, smaller killer whale, San Diego bigger killer whale. Not sure. And then honestly, for the Norwegian killer whale, they're usually pretty big, but compared to San Diego's killer whale, I'm not sure they're that
And
much bigger.
from the video that we've seen for Gibraltar and
Gibraltar seem pretty
Hokkaido,
small,
yeah,
but
Gibraltar seems a bit small for some of the
and
ones we've
Hokkaido
seen.
also. Well, Hokkaido they're chunky.
But you also have big males there too that I mean, we haven't done any morphometrics from the drone.
Yeah.
So it's all sort of guessing
Thank
because we
you.
don't
That's
have a
one thing we can
scale.
add to our plate with the
Yeah,
drone.
We're
no, I'm adding
speculating.
more. Yeah,
For San Diego and Nora Park, it's easy. We can measure them. But
yeah.
yeah, we'll see what we can do for the Norway, Gibraltar, and Japanese one.
And so Kel, just before we go, um the question about curating videos on the website. We do have publications on the website that talk about the different behaviors, and we do have short videos here and there that talk about the different behaviors that we've seen and documented. But we don't have a curated roster of the specific actions and behaviors. And it's a great idea. I agree with you. I just we focus so much on the research, we don't focus on pulling out clips to say this is this and this is this. But at some point, maybe we can go down that path.
Yeah,
What
I'm
I
already
can tell
thinking
you
about
is it
how that'll be
takes,
a good little series where
Hmm.
this behavior, this behavior. So
Yeah.
I'm not putting any deadline on DCP to pull that together, but it's
Yep.
filed
Yep.
away. A nice fresh
I can
idea.
I can tell you I did something like that for the belugas and it took 3 years to put it all together. So and that was with already pre-existing a pre-existing video that had taken a year to put together with all the clips of those sorts of things. So as you guys know, it's not an easy process, but
Right.
definitely worthwhile. Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, with that, a big thank you to everyone who listened live, everyone who's listening now to this recording, and we hope that you have enjoyed the program and that you look forward to finding more information and stay in touch. So sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.